Hello all, Namaskar. Again, this is Durga Prasad Adhikary. Welcome you back to another session of SANNIDHAN. Here we are discussing the previous year questions of philosophy optional, and we are discussing with Indian philosophy of 2021 paper, that is section B, and previously we had discussed the 5th and 6th question. Now let us discuss 7th and 8th question. Total 6 questions today. Number 1 question: how do the advocates of Anirvachaniya Khyati refute the position of Nyayikas and establish the position of Advaitins regarding the problem of error? So see here, Anirvachaniya Khyati, that we know, it is Anirvachaniya means that is indescribable. So Anirvachaniya Khyati and Khyativad, you know, this is from the topic of Khyativad. Khyativad says it is the theorems to explain the errors. Why do the errors in our judgments, in our knowledge happen? So Shankaracharya proposes Anirvachaniya Khyati, that is the view of Advaitins. Here it is given Advaitins, not only of Vedant, it is of Advait Vedant. Okay, and the Nyayikas give Anirvachaniya Khyati. So you must be knowing that in Anirvachaniya Khyati, he says that most of the error that happens, it is due to that of Maya, because of the Adhyas that is happening. In Adhyas, there are two things, that is the Avarana and Vikshepa. The real identity is hidden, and then the different identity is projected. Like in the rope and snake, the rope is hidden and snake is projected, the real identity. So that is why there is a theory of error, and this leads to an error. In fact, the real knowledge that we have now is also refuted when we will go to the Paramarthik level, because in the Vyavaharik level, whatever we see, we will realize that it is illusion. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. It is said that Jagat is Mithya, but where? It is in Paramarthik level. So this is Anirvachaniya Khyati. What is Anyatha Khyati? Nyayika's position of Khyati is Anyatha Khyati. What is Anyatha Khyati? Anyatha means elsewhere and elsewise. Both of this happen simultaneously. So this means you must be knowing that Nyayikas believe on Paratah Pramanyavad. That is, they believe in the correspondence theory of knowledge. For example, if I will say something, they will correspond it to the truth and they will check whether it is true or not. The knowledge is not valid intrinsically, rather it is validated by correspondence. So based on that, they gave the theory of Anyatha Khyati, that is elsewhere and elsewise. So which means, like for example, in the case of rope and snake, what happens? In the case of when we misidentify a shell as a silver, what happens? That the shell, that is the silver, what we perceive mistakenly is present somewhere else, and we see the shell as something else. So elsewise we see the shell, and elsewhere the silver that we mistakenly presume is present. So this is something that is there. So these are the theory part. Regarding this question, how you can write, you can directly write, it is given critically discuss. So in fact you will write the theories. In fact, how do the advocates of Anirvachaniya Khyati? In fact, first try to say, you can define what Khyativad is something, and Nyayikas propose Anyatha Khyati. Then briefly describe what is Anyatha Khyati, and then directly come how Advait Vedants try to refute it. Because the way they try to refute it by, it is the same way as the Anirvachaniya Khyati. Because they say whatever you are telling is wrong, because the whole of the world that you say, because Nyayikas propose the world is real. It is Nitya Parmanu Karanvad. So, but what Shankaracharya says, it is false, because it is made up of Maya. So you please write all those things and then conclude accordingly. Okay. Then if everything is momentary, the next question, if everything is momentary, then how do Buddhists explain the problem of memory and personal identity critically discussed? So you must be knowing, this is the personal identity and the memory is the part which the Jainas, in fact if I am not wrong, Jainas use it to give a very death blow to the Shanikvar. But here they are asking, it is a slightly bent question. Here they are asking, how do the Buddhists describe problem of memory and personal identity? So for the problem of memory, you must be knowing there are some theories like the Arthkriyavad, Arthkriya Karitva and all those things. So please use all those things and start with Pratitya Samatpat, and you say that Shanikvad is a necessary outcome of Pratitya Samatpat, and directly as early as possible directly jump to the topic that what Buddhists say is personal identity. Because you say, although they believe in Shanikvad, but they have given something like the theory of Santanvad. They have given the theory of Arthkriya Karitva. Only that is true which has the potential of causing an effect. So you write here the Arthkriyavad, Arthkriya Karitva, and in fact Santanvad, and you can use that to say that whatever you say, that the problem of memory, it happens because every cause has an effect. So what we are having as a memory now, or what we are doing now, has a cause which is there in the previous link. So there is a necessary chain of antecedent and consequences, and because of this there is the memory part is solved, because although there is not an eternal soul, there is not a synthesizing entity, but there is a linkage which links the previous things with the current things, and that is due to the causal efficiency. So you please write this, and then the personal identity, make a subheading personal identity, and you say that although there is not this thing, personal identity is not there, but there is Sanghatva, there are Panchskand, and in the Panchskandas they have tried to say, give the analogy of chariot that was given by Nagarjuna or Nagsen, if I am not wrong. Just a minute, I'll just check, because this example is very important, and you must write, because they say that although there are Panchskand, when you try to refer to them, when you try to say a chariot, you refer to the whole part of when you try to refer to the chariot, you don't say that it is a wheel, it is an axle or something. The whole of all these parts makes the chariot. In similar way, okay, you just check it there, that what exactly it is. I feel it is, there is a chariot analogy is there. It is by Nagsen, if I am not wrong. So that is the thing, and you please mention that that in similar way the Panchskand makes the personal identity, and there are other things like in fact they are linked by the causal efficiency, and due to which there is a chain of this thing, what's a continuity, and you please mention them and then conclude accordingly. Okay, explain the Jain view of seven-folded Saptabhangine. This is a very direct topic. Please start that the Jainas believe in this Saptabhangine, and you can please give reference to Anikantvad and Syadvad, and then you can directly see that Ne is something of the partial judgment, and when you add Syad, it synthesizes, because Ne is the analytic element, Syad is the synthesizing element. So when you combine both of them, then only we get Saptabhangine, and it is of 7 times. Please mention the 7 times. You say the fourth one, that is the Syat Avyaktam, has a deep philosophical meaning, because in philosophical context everything cannot be described in affirmation or negation. There are some things that are best left undescribed. So Syat Avyaktam has a meaning, and you say how the Jainism is trying to explain Anekantvad via Syadvad using the Saptabhangine. And with that, if you write Saptabhangine, and with that you try to mention all the things that are possible with that, like all the 7 judgments. In fact, you can give the example of the elephant and how it is perceived differently. And at the end, you can say that Saptabhangine, although is of Jainism origin, it has a huge relevance for the current society, because herein we are trying to say that whatever I am saying or whatever you are saying, it is not the absolute thing. Rather, what we are saying is just a partial point of view, and we are trying to explain this sevenfold judgments to explain the realities of the world. So this is one way. Now 8a, according to Sri Aurobindo, the awakening of the psychic being and its gradual prominence over all other parts of the being is first step in the conscious evolution of man. So this is something, a very direct question. Please start like the awakening of the psychic being and its gradual prominence over. So you must be knowing what is the process of evolution of Aurobindo. He is saying that there are some things like the like the matter, life, mind, and it has to go to supermind. So it says that the psychic being must arise, because here we are in the stage of mind. So to get liberation, we must go to the stage of supermind. And in this, there are 3 processes that is happening. That is the widening, heightening, and the integration of the lower forms into the higher forms. And there are another thing like the psychization, and the spiritualization, and the supramentalization. These are all the static part. There is nothing new in that. You can mention them. And if possible, and yes, in the Saptabhangine, please give criticism, because that is also important in the previous question. Now here again, while you are coming, and in fact in the Shanikva, this thing, the problem of personal identity and problem of memory, please give the criticism, because Shanikvad as such is not qualifying all those things, because memory is giving a death blow to it. Okay, so now coming to our Aurobindo question, it is a direct question. Please mention the process of evolution. You can say the self-concealment that had happened in the involution is now the Supreme Being is removing that. Please mention Satchitananda of Brahman that he uses. Please try to explain all those things in detail. In fact, if you want, you can draw a diagram wherein you can see the 8 stages, that is 8 stages that are there in the process of evolution, and you can do a good diagram. In fact, if you want, you can give a slight criticism to it, although like it is It is like something of a mere abstract thought process which doesn't have a scientific basis. The normal criticism that you find in the book, and you can mention it, but please try to include the integral yoga, because integral yoga is the way in which by which this thing will happen. And in fact, integral yoga is not salvation from the world, it is salvation in the world. It wants the salvation of whole of the world. So this is very important, and you please mention them. Now the 8b, compare and contrast the views of Shankar and Ramanuja regarding the status of the world. See, again it is Jagat Vichar. What means Jagat Vichar? When you are writing Jagat Vichar, the first thing that comes to my mind is the theories of causation. You know that Shankaracharya believes in Brahma Vivartvad, Ramanujacharya believes in Brahma Parinamvad. So based on that, I will write my answers. So basically, you can directly in the beginning, you can see that Shankaracharya believes in Advaita Vedanta, which says that the Brahman alone is the real and everything is a form of Maya. Whereas Ramanujacharya believes that the world is real, just like the God, in fact, and what we see, they are the Jiva and Jagat are related to the God via apratak sthiti sambandh. And then you can state what are the Jagat Vichar of Shankaracharya. You can mention everything, because the Maya and all those things, this world is unreal. However, it can only be negated in the Paramarthik stage. The Brahman, all those things, the Pratibhasik, Vyavaharik, you can say this is the Vyavaharik level and this is the Shankaracharya. However, you can contrast, because it is asking compare and contrast. One way is you can write in paragraph of Shankaracharya, then with Ramanuj. However, there is another way is what, in fact, I wrote in mains this time, if I am not wrong, I made it separate, means the difference that we do. I put a straight line in the between and wrote of Shankaracharya and of Ramanujacharya. You can say this is the thing, here it says this is the thing, here it says this is the thing. The world is unreal, this is real, something like this. Okay. You can say Adhyas is playing a role here, Maya is playing a role here, Avarana Vikshepa is playing a role here. However, this thing is real. Aprithak Sthiti Sambandh is there in Ramanujacharya. No such things are there. So you can write everything. Okay, the Jagat Vichar. It is a very direct question. Chit Achit differentiation is there in Ramanujacharya, but it is not there here. So please write all those things. It is a very straightforward question, and this is a very mark fetching questions. And don't hesitate to mention the as many number of Sanskrit terms, as many numbers of these things, whatever you say, the colloquial philosophical terms here, because they will be highly mark fetching. In fact, if there are some analogies, please mention the analogies. For example, we discussed chariot analogy for this thing, what you say, the problem of personal identity. For memory, you can mention that of a problem of personal identity in Shanikvad. For memory, you can mention of that the lamp and river, the Heraclitus thing. You must be knowing all those things because they are in the standard textbook. So in similar manner, here you can give the examples, like whatever examples is there. Okay. And in that way, you mention the Jagat Vichar, and it is a very straightforward question, so there is nothing that I need to discuss over here. Then the last part is explain the status of Jiva and Jagat in the philosophy of Madhvacharya. Again, it is a strict dualism, and in fact, Jiva and Jagat both are Chitta and Achit, and they are dependent on the Brahman, and Jiva and Jagat are the dependent entities. However, Brahman alone is the independent entities. And here you can make a brief description, because it is explaining the status of Jiva and Jagat. So here it is asking, are Jiva and Jagat independent? Are they dependent? If dependent, on whom? How they are related? Whether it is related of aprathak sthiti sambandh, are they linked with it sometimes, or they are completely separate entity? So you need to analyze on all those aspects. You need to write that they are dependent entities, but they are not identical with the Brahman, or they are the part of the Brahman, like we saw in Ramanujacharya. He says the Jiva and Jagat are the limbs of the God, like they are the part of the God, aprathak sthiti sambandh of Ramanujacharya. But here Madhvacharya makes a strict difference. And in fact, you will mention here the Panchavidha Bhed, the 5 types of differences, and you will say that they are both different entities, Chitta and Achitta. However, you can mention about Prakriti being Achitta, which is the material cause and all those things. It is a real manifestation of the changes, Satkaryavad theory, because Madhvacharya also believes in Satkaryavad theory. Okay. So in this way, you can mention them and then write the criticism. How Shankaracharya says that you cannot maintain Jiva and Jagat as separate entities. You cannot maintain them as these things, because it makes the philosophy very inconsistent. Rather, they must culminate in the Brahman. Because if they are independent entities and you are making the God independent entities, how do you relate them? And if you are relating this thing, there are some inherent problems which the Shankaracharya beautifully described. In fact, Shankaracharya was no more while Madhvacharya was promoting this theory. However, the Advaitins, the better way is the Advaitins. Advaitins have beautifully countered it, and they have provided their own arguments which are very evident in our all the notebooks that are there. So in this way you can write the answer. So basically what I'm trying to say, whatever answers you are writing in philosophy, please try to make a completeness in the answers. Please use the Sanskrit terms. Please try to make a logical necessary flow, and please try to hit the point as early as possible. Don't beat around the bush. Don't spend one page on explaining who is Madhvacharya and what is his theory. Rather, just write the thing that Madhvacharya is an Indian philosopher who believes in the Dvaitvad, and he says that there is an independent entity called the Brahman, and there are dependent entities called Chitta and Achita, and directly come that what is the status of Jiva and Jagat. Directly start from there, and you will get very good marks the more early you come to the point. Okay, so that's all that I wanted to discuss. In fact, this is the way we will discuss mostly, because everything is there in your notes, because they are very straightforward questions. There is nothing that is there that I will try to discuss. I'm just trying to tell you how to frame your answers, how to place them in points. Okay, so please do that. Please read them very carefully, and please try to be conceptually clear, and wherever possible draw interlinkages from the western part of philosophy, and whatever is there in the notebooks. Don't try to use your brain much, because in philosophy everything is very certain. You cannot put your own wisdom to it. That's the thing. You are allowed to put your own wisdom only in, I feel, in some questions of philosophy of religion and in most questions of socio-political philosophy, but not in paper one. In paper one, it's mostly related to the intellectual level of learning that most of our previous philosophers have done for us. We just need to write them in a very logical way. Okay, so that's what I wanted to discuss. Thank you again. If there are any mistakes or something, please pardon me, because I'm trying to do all that I can do. There are some things with respect to memory that that many times we don't remember. In fact, the Nagarjuna and Nagasen, many say they are both the same. In fact, if I'm not wrong, however, many say that they are very different. But you can check, because they have here given the chariot analogy. Okay, so you can check that. Okay, thanks again. Namaskar. I hope you like the session. We will discuss again the Indian philosophy of 2020 paper. The two questions of 2020 paper maybe tomorrow, and we will first finish the Indian philosophy, then we will go to other philosophies, because if we will do them in succession, we will be able to predict the nature of the paper, how they are evolving. Okay, so that is very important. Okay, thanks a lot for being there. Namaskar.